Hi, my name is Jared, and this is Horror Obsession. Today, I want to talk about Talk to Me, a new Australian horror movie written and directed by the Philippou brothers. I just saw this in theaters, and, well, I loved it. It's rare to find a truly original horror movie these days, and while Talk to Me obviously has some influences, which we'll get to later, I can confidently say the movie's very original. There was so much that I liked about this movie, but before we start talking about spoilers, I highly recommend watching it. It is getting rave reviews from critics and audiences alike, and deservedly so. It is hardly a perfect movie, but if you're looking for an entertaining, fun horror movie with some original ideas, this is the movie you've been waiting for. Alright, so let's get into spoilers and start with the things I liked. Where to even begin? While watching the movie, the two things that stuck out to me the most were the characters and the direction. Let's start with the characters, which are the backbone of any good horror movie and are too often neglected. The main characters are Mia, Jade, and Riley, and they are all very different, with clearly defined personalities. Mia's mom died by overdose and she became very close with Jade and sort of moved into their house, in part because her relationship with her father, Max, was fractured by her mom's death. Riley became her de facto younger brother, and it is shown early on that Jade is kind of a tough love older sister when she rejects Riley's attempt to sleep in her bed because, as she reminds him, you're not 9 anymore. Riley instead seeks out Mia, and the roles of each character in the family are clearly defined, with Jade being more of a parental figure, Mia being a more permissive older sibling, and Riley having taken on the role of the younger sibling in need of nurturing. Riley and Jade's mom, Sue, aka Eowyn from Lord of the Rings, is savvy and tries to weasel information about parties and sneaking out from the different kids in creative ways, but they all toe the party line and don't give any information up, which happens several times in sequences which are really entertaining and perfectly encapsulates the game parents play where they mostly know what their kids are doing but expect you to do a good enough job hiding it from them that they can't get mad. The dynamics of the family are nuanced, realistic, and enjoyable to watch develop. Going on behind all of this, the kids are in fact sneaking out and going to parties, and they sneak out and go to some of the popular party kids at school's house because of some social media posts they've been making of kids looking and acting like they're possessed. As it turns out, they have been using a voodoo hand thing, and if you shake the hand and say, "Talk to me," you will see a ghost. Mia is skeptical but gives it a try, and sure enough, she sees a spooky ghost, much to the delight of the crowd of kids watching. To take things a step further, you can also let the ghost possess you by saying, "I'll let you in," but the kids somehow heard to not let it possess you for more than 90 seconds or else it will want to stay. As the kids continue to experiment and push the boundaries of the hand, things start to wobble out of control, and predictably, eventually shit hits the fan. But by the time it does, we have come to actually like the main characters for the reasons I touched on earlier. And I even found myself enjoying the side characters, such as Haley. They reminded me a lot of my house party days in high school, just kind of messing around, enjoying life, and willingly allowing demonic spirits to possess my body for fun. Good times. This is where I want to talk about the direction a bit, because on the surface, the kids letting a spirit possess them for fun makes them sound like stereotypical horror movie characters, making ridiculous choices in service of the script needing them to. But Talk to Me does a wonderful job of properly motivating the characters. They show a few of the kids getting possessed in detail, and while it is portrayed as intense, everyone is having a great time, and eventually we see lots of people taking turns being possessed, much to the delight of the entire party of kids. The scenes are extremely reminiscent of a bunch of kids experimenting with drugs, and the rapid fire editing, acting, and writing make it kind of understandable that they would enjoy the whole experience. This is a critical moment in the film because if the audience feels the characters are acting irrationally for the entire setup, it is going to undermine everything that happens after. The Philippou brothers nail it, and the second possession party montage is one of my favorite party montages in any horror movie that I can remember, so brilliantly done there. Without this excellent direction, the whole movie would have fallen apart. I also wanted to talk about the opening scene, which I think sets the stage for the movie beautifully. In tons of my previous videos, including my slasher school videos and my structure of horror video, I talk about how the opening scene of a horror movie needs to establish the horror, and preferably show a kill using the method the killer or villain is going to be killing later in the film. The audience needs to know what to be scared of, and without these scenes, it is much more difficult to create suspense and tension later. I always go back to the example of a slasher movie, say Friday the 13th Part 2, where someone is investigating a strange noise. Watching a character walk slowly down a hallway or on a patio is not very scary. But tell the audience there is a killer lurking around every corner, and suddenly those scenes are suspenseful. Talk to Me opens with an energetic, brutally violent, and surprising scene which accomplishes the goal of a horror opening scene perfectly in every regard. There are going to be some spoilers here, but it is the opening scene. Just watch the movie already, will ya? Anyway, we see a kid going through a party looking for his brother, helping establish this party-centric world, and he eventually does find his brother, Duckett. Duckett has locked himself in a back room, and the brother knocks the door down, but much to his dismay, Duckett seems high on drugs or something because he says, "You're not you," and has to be dragged from the room. A bunch of the party people are filming on their phones, so the brother starts telling them off for trying to exploit his brother's misery for entertainment, but the brother interrupts him with a knife in the chest before stabbing himself. So why do I love this so much? The horror of this film is primarily two things: addiction and obsession. Possession is used as a metaphor for both, with the use of the hand to become possessed a clear metaphor for drug use. The kids are experimenting with the hand, aka drugs, and it's all fun and games, but they keep pushing the boundaries, and eventually someone gets hurt. If you've seen the movie, the drug use allegory is extremely obvious. The opening scene sets up this metaphor by showing Duckett in a way that makes the audience think he is on drugs. He is acting exactly like someone who got too high or used meth or something and is tripping out. So the opening scene foreshadows the main theme of the film. Next, there is the obsession theme. This is somewhat hard to separate from the addiction theme because addiction is a form of obsession, but I wanted to delineate the two because the main character, Mia, ends up suffering from both. She and her friends love using the hand to the point they are partying and staying up all night using it, but even after someone gets badly hurt, she still wants to continue using the hand to try and fix the problems the hand caused in the first place. I mean, that is some Towelie logic right there.
Alright, I got one chance here. I need to focus and come up with what I'm gonna say. Maybe I should get a little high. No, wait a minute. I'm not gonna get high this time. But the ideas I come up with when I'm high keep getting me in trouble. Yeah, that's why you should only get a little high.
Mia is exactly like this, basically saying, "Every time I use the hand I get in trouble, but maybe if I just use the hand a little bit it'll help." Her obsession comes from an inability to let go of the death of her mother, which makes sense and helps provide her with believable motivation to want to continue. I was worried they were going to fall into the same trap as most elevated horror and spend the whole damn movie depressingly exploring trauma and grief, but this ends up being just another component of the overall movie. Mia's obsession with trying to reconnect with her mother does come from grief, but we aren't subjected to like 10 scenes of her crying in despair or other grief porn techniques commonly used in Midsommar or The Babadook. So how does the opening scene connect with the theme of obsession? Well, we don't really get it until much later, but the movie shows us Mia's journey from ordinary, normal person to where Duckett is in the beginning of the film. This technique was used to much success in the 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie, where Miles sees a seemingly crazy person ranting about vague people coming to get him, but by the end of Act 2, we see Miles doing the exact same thing. This kind of parallel storytelling is difficult to get right, but it is so satisfying when you do. Audiences love setups and payoffs since it makes the architecture of the entire film feel more planned out and on purpose. Using a mysterious opening scene but not explaining it is just lazy, so if you're going to give me a setup like that, I expect the story to connect the dots all the way back to the opening scene. And Talk to Me does this wonderfully. I said earlier the opening scene should show the villain, but the opening scene of Talk to Me doesn't show the hand. Why is that? Well, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? The hand isn't the villain is ourselves. The extremely human flaws of addiction and obsession are in fact the villain of the story, and the movie does a great job of showing that. There are also themes of the dangers of peer pressure woven into the addiction theme, and social media woven into the obsession theme, and honestly perhaps the most impressive part of the entire movie. They explore all these themes, develop their main characters and side characters, include some scary stuff, all while keeping the runtime at a tidy 95 minutes. Movies are too damn long these days, and I really appreciate a director being able to restrain themselves, unlike Christopher, "Oh, my movies are 45 minutes too long," Nolan. Overall, Talk to Me is an inventive, interesting, engaging, decently scary possession movie that has a lot to say about being a human. I generally hate the possession subgenre, and this movie immediately jumps towards the top of the list for me. With a bunch of lazy, derivative crap like Exorcist 6 or some kind of Pope exorcism mindless sludge flowing forth from the Hollywood sewers lately, Talk to Me really surprised me and helped rejuvenate my waiting horror obsession.